Welcome to George's Live Podcast, the official podcast of George's Majestic Lounge. I am your host, Travis Smith. Today we have a very special interview with a world-renowned bass player by the name of Victor Wooten, who will be coming here to George's Majestic Lounge on April 23rd with the Victor Wooten Woods Experience. We got a chance to talk to Victor about his camp that he has in Tennessee, as well as who he has coming on the show, and we got a chance to talk about a video that he has on YouTube that you guys might want to run and check out if you look up Music as a Language. And he does the voiceover and produces that video as well. We got a chance to talk about that and how important teaching music is to today's youth. If you're interested in going to that show, you can go online and get tickets at georgeslive.com. The doors will be at 7 o'clock and the show starts at 8:30. Tickets will be $25 online or $30 at the door. And this is a very special all ages show. So I'd like to thank Victor Wooten for coming on to the podcast. Thank you guys for listening to George's Live, the podcast. Welcome to the George's Live Podcast. I am here with Victor Wooten. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing very well, Travis. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. You have your show coming up here at George's Majestic Lounge on April 23rd, and I just wanted to reach out and chat with you and kind of get the scoop on this tour that you're on right now.
Yeah, man, this is probably the craziest thing I've ever done on tour, but it's also going to be the most exciting. Because we're celebrating the 20th year of running my music and nature camps. And so I'm bringing a band, I'll bring my brother Reggie out there, and, I've got a keyboard player and a drummer, and we'll do that. And I think my brother Joseph will be with us on keys. But then I'm going to bring out a bunch of the instructors that teach at my camp. So my good friend Steve Bailey, who is now the chair of the bass department at Berklee College of Music in Boston. Mm-hmm. That's where I am as we speak. He's going to come out with me for a couple of weeks, and probably 3, 4, or 5 or so of my instructors that have been around for many years, including a man named Daniel Levitin. Dan is a musician, but he's also a neuroscientist and an author. He wrote a great book called "This Is Your Brain on Music." Oh, nice. And a lot of musicians know that book. So he's going to come out and perform with us. And then I have about 6 students that are going to join us also from various years. And one of the students was at my very first camp. And she's a bassist and a singer and a rapper. And her name is Divinity Rocks.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And we toured. After that first camp, I just loved everything she was doing. I brought her on tour for about 5 or 6 years. And then Beyonce started auditioning for an all-female band. And Divinity got the bass chair. So she toured with Beyonce for about 5 years as her bass player. And so she's been around the world, but she's going to come back and do this tour with us. And then I have, about maybe 5 or so other students from different years. And we're just going to have a big blast and do all sorts of different things. We're even going to include the audience in the show. It's going to be fun.
That's got to be fun for you to have, your students that's been there at your camp and now being able to tour with them as well, I bet.
Absolutely. That's why it's so exciting, because some of these people have never been on a tour bus. They've never toured. And, we're just going to take them around the country and have some fun.
Wow, that's nice. So this show is a little bit different than a lot of shows we have here because it's going to be an all-ages show, which means some of the youth will be able to come into the show and kind of get up close with these students and kind of see, where they went to camp as well, and now they're on the road as well. So that'll be nice to see. Can you speak on how important you think it is to expose children to music at an early age and kind of see if it's something for them?
Absolutely. And that's one of the main reasons I wanted Dan Levitin to join us, is because he has actually studied it. He knows of the studies that show the benefits that children have when learning music young. Now, it doesn't mean they need to grow up and be musicians as their profession. But the same way we learn math, we learn, language, geography. He says kids that learn music have a benefit in life also. And it benefits other areas of life that, the other things that we learn in school don't. So it helps round out a student. For example, to play music, we have to listen to each other, right? A band is better when all the instruments are different, not the same. So we celebrate our differences. We recognize and celebrate our differences in music. They say that kids that study music young, they do better socially. They know when to talk, when to listen, when to jump in, when to lay back, and things like that. And they're now studying people's brains. One of my friends here at Berkeley, who's one of the faculty here, we put him in I don't know if it was a CAT scan or MRI machine or whatever, and they studied his brain while he played music just to see what's going on in a musician's brain. And they're finding out all kinds of benefits and things like that. So, that's one of the things I'm hoping to talk about each night at the show and have Daniel talk about it with families and to the audience. And that was also one of the main reasons that we demanded every show we do on this tour be an all ages show.
Yeah, that's super cool. I know for me, myself being a musician, I know I can look back and kind of almost trace everything that I do know and every skill that I have back to when I was a musician, and the things that I've learned through playing, and then communicating with other people as an instrument. Then you learn to communicate with other people and learn to listen,
right,
as you're an adult and stuff like that. And I think that is super important.
Right, and I'm hoping that now that these studies are coming out, and a lot of these things that we'll see online and Facebook and things like that about musicians' brains and the power of music, I'm hoping that will, rise up to the top of people who make the laws and the decisions, so that we can make sure that music remains in the schools and give it some more importance and more funding and things like that, especially at the elementary level.
I have a question for you. I came across a video where you were describing music as a language, and
Yes.
I found it incredibly inspiring and moving. And I think a lot of other folks that have seen it have probably registered and felt the same way. Do you remember when you first realized that music was used as a language? Do you remember that time?
Well, yeah, I think I do. And it was in my later years. I've been playing for a long time. But I was playing now with a banjo player named Bela Fleck.
Mm-hmm.
And Bela Fleck and the Flecktones started becoming popular in especially the early 90s. And because of that popularity, I started showing up in Bass Player magazine a lot. And because of that, I started getting asked to teach and to do workshops and things like that. And I never taught anything. I just played my whole life. I didn't know how to teach music. And then figuring out how to teach and what to teach, I realized that it was through that made me realize, wow, this is just like speaking. The same rules that apply to speaking apply to music, and vice versa. The listening, the making sure that we breathe, the way we phrase, the tone, making sure that we articulate correctly. All of these things are the same. And so I realized, wow, music is just like a language. But then it also hit me. That's why people struggle so much with music, is because we don't teach it like a language. We teach it through rules and stuff first. You have to learn all of these rules first. But in the language, we don't learn any rules first. We just talk to each other first. And we talk to babies, and we don't make the babies learn it to speak correctly first. Your dad doesn't say, hey, that's not English, go practice.
Yeah.
You talk baby talk, and your parents learn your way. Because even though the word may be wrong, the emotion is right. And it's the emotion that speaks to the parent, and the parent learns all of your emotions. But in music, we don't allow you to be emotional yet. You got to learn a bunch of rules first.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so a lot of kids don't feel like taking all these years to learn rules, so they quit.
I know.
And there is another way. There's a faster way, and I would go as far as to say there is a better way.
I have a question for some people that might have been playing for a while. Would you agree it's never too late for practice? I mean, there's practice that you have, you're practicing for a gig and get your chops up and stuff like that. But do you feel like at a certain age in your career or a certain time that it's ever too late for practice, or do you think?
No, never too late. Practice is necessary, but most musicians will put practice above playing. Right? In other words, when you're learning new words as you're growing up, Like you may be taking a language class, English or whatever. Your teacher may teach you, some spelling words and some new words, and you'll learn the meaning of a new word, and you'll say the word maybe twice, 3 times. That's practice. You do it a couple of times, but then the teacher says, "Now let's use it in a sentence," and practice becomes using it.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, it's not sit there and say your ABCs over and over. Go in a room and practice them, every day. No, let's spell. Let's talk. Let's use these letters. The application of the alphabet is out of order. But we're told to practice scales over and over where the application is out of order. So I think that people put practice too far above the application of what we're practicing. And that's like learning how to swim, but you're not even in the water yet.
Yeah, I see.
You'll learn much faster in the water. And so, no, you're never too old to practice. But again, to reiterate it, I think some of us just practice too much and play too little.
Absolutely. Well, man, thank you for coming on the podcast. You're an inspiration, and it's nice. I like this tour that you're going on. I think it's going to speak to a lot of people, and I'm looking forward to seeing it myself.
It's going to be fun. Travis, I hope I get to say hi to you.
Absolutely, man. I'll be at the
when
show.
We're there. And, it's going to be fun. I think there's going to be some eye-opening things that we do on this tour, because we're going to involve the audience in a unique way that I think is going to open some people's eyes.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Victor, for coming on the podcast, and we will see you at the show.
All right.
Thank you
so much, man.
There you have it, guys. That was Victor Wooten. He'll be here with the Victor Wooten Woods Experience. Tickets are $25. You can get them on georgeslive.com. They will be $30 on the day of the show. This is an all-ages show. And be sure to go to georgeslive.com. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and be sure to rate and subscribe the podcast and tell your friends.